It's time for everyone's favorite end of the year video, the one where I complain about the worst books I read this year. Hello, beautiful people of the internet, how are you doing today? My name is Jackie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to discuss the 5 worst books that I read in 2022. Now, technically 2022 is not over at the time that I'm finishing this, but I will say that at this point in time, I did not give any books 1 star this year, so claps for that. Great job, books. All of you at least had 1 redeeming quality. So there was no book I read this year that made me seriously start reconsidering my life choices. However, there were books I did not like. In this video, I am going to be discussing 5 books that I did not enjoy in 2022. All of these books received 2-star ratings from me. That being said, there was at least something I liked about all of them, so that's good, I guess. I don't have a particular order that I want to go in. I think I will mention this one first because it was the one that I thought was the least bad out of all of them. I still didn't like this book. It was a 2-star read, but first on this list, The Sanatorium by Sarah Pierce. To be completely honest with you, when I was looking at my Goodreads and I realized I read this book in 2022, I was kind of surprised because it feels like it's been an eternity since I read The Sanatorium. This is the first in a series, which needless to say, I will not be continuing, following Detective Ellen Warner. She's a British police detective who has been placed on leave. I believe something traumatic happened to her at work, and she travels to this remote ski chalet in Switzerland for her brother's engagement party. And this hotel used to be a sanatorium. A lot of people have died at this place over the years. It, I believe, housed tuberculosis patients back in the 1800s. And over the course of this engagement celebration, Ellen's brother's fiance goes missing. This book just was a big letdown. It was pretty boring. I wasn't that invested in what was going on. Looking on Goodreads, I commented that the author loves the word staccato. She used this word so much, it must be like her favorite word or something, because I think she said it at least like 4 or 5 times. Really, I think this book's biggest sin is just being kind of boring. I was not emotionally invested in the characters, was not particularly rooting for anyone, and I don't mind a slow-paced mystery. I don't mind if it's a little bit more of a slow burn, but this one was boring. The ending of this book and the reveal of who the bad guy is also hinges on one of my least favorite mystery/thriller tropes. It's a trope that I hate with a burning passion, The Fire of a Thousand Suns, and I don't want to have to ever see it in a book ever again because I think it is kind of offensive and I hate it. Next, you all know I love Agatha Christie. I want to read every book that she ever wrote. But this one did not do it for me. It's The Big Four. Now, this book is just not good. I think most people agree that it's not good. This is one of the early books in the Poirot series, but it lacks the same charm and wit that Agatha Christie's other mysteries have. This book is less like a Poirot mystery and a little bit more like James Bond style spy thriller. The suspension of disbelief is very, very high. Basically, in this book, Poirot faces off against an international crime syndicate known as the Big Four, and the Big Four is led by, as it sounds, 4 people: a French scientist, a Chinese revolutionary, a American multimillionaire, and a British master of disguise. Now, how did these 4 people hook up and start committing crimes together? Beats me. I don't know. How they found each other in the age before the internet, I don't know. Now, I don't think this book's failings are entirely Agatha Christie's fault. This book was originally not meant to be a novel. These chapters were originally published as different short stories, and then they were compiled together because after Agatha Christie did her little disappearing act, they wanted another book from her, and she hadn't finished The Mystery of the Blue Train before she had her Gone Girl-esque disappearance slash mental breakdown slash suicide attempt, depending on who you ask. And so these short stories were put together in book form. And because they were originally not meant to go together like this, the entire book feels very disjointed. The most liked review on Goodreads really sums up my feelings on this one, so I'm just gonna read to you what this person said. Thank you, John, for articulating my feelings in a very accurate and humorous way. So he says, "The main problem here is that Poirot is fighting a team of supervillains, and he uses disguises and smoke bombs and has to find their secret underground lair, and the whole thing is just odd. It comes off like Poirot fanfiction. I mean, he's the same character and all that, but the things he's doing are just not what I want Poirot to do." And then he talks about the team. How did these people get together? Why are they a team? Do they have any motive to speak of? They just want to take over the world and cause anarchy for some reason. I don't want Poirot to fight supervillains. I want him in little English towns, ferreting out murderers who have motives. I like it when priggish British ladies say things like, "What on earth are you talking about, you batty little man? Are you accusing me of murder?" To which Poirot says things like, "You have, as they say, caught the bird in the bush, madame. This is exactly what I accuse you of." And then he and Hastings drink sherry or something. I agree with John. Okay, I like Poirot better in that environment than this like weird James Bond stuff he's gotten himself involved in the Big Four. That's why this book did not work for me. Next up, I don't have a whole lot to say about this one because I reviewed it not that long ago, but The Island by Adrienne McKinty. This was another no for me. I really wanted to like this because I enjoyed The Chain by the same author, but this book just was not my type of book. I feel like there are other people who definitely would really like this, but I picked up this book believing it was a thriller. It said a thriller on the cover, and I feel like this book leans a little bit more towards horror than thriller, and that's just not my vibe. This book follows a blended family who are on vacation in Australia. The kids really want to see the wildlife, so they ask this man they meet, this strange man, if they can go with him back to the island where his family lives. The man takes them over on his ferry to this remote island where this very strange and cult-like extended family live, and while our main characters are on this island, something happens and they are told that they will not be allowed to leave. I definitely think there are people out there who will really like this book, and I could see it being made into a movie or miniseries, but it just was not for me. It was very violent, and it went to some strange places. Also, I could always kind of tell where the plot was going to go next, so it's not like there were really any twists or anything like that in this book. Just the brutality of the whole thing and the violence, the horror, it was not what I was expecting to get. I mean, I knew it was going to be more of a thriller than a mystery, but I wasn't expecting these like horror-like elements. It was just a bit too intense for me, and it didn't have the air of mystery that I was hoping for. The Chain is definitely more of a thriller than a mystery, but there are still some mysterious elements about who is behind the chain, and this one I don't feel like it really had any surprises, just a lot of weirdness and violence and disgust. And now I have a hot take, okay? I did not like Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. This book was such a disappointment. This is supposed to be a feminist retelling of the myth of Ariadne. It's been compared to Circe by Madeline Miller, one of my all-time favorite books, and oh my god, Do not mention Ariadne and Cersei in the same sentence unless that sentence is talking about how Cersei is a million times better. Because this book, in my opinion, is not good. Okay? It's not good. Why I think Cersei is so wonderful is it shows the main character's struggles as a woman in the Greek myths, but it still has hope at the end of it. And Ariadne is a book that is completely devoid of hope. It is just pain, pain, and more pain. It is a story of women who do nothing but suffer because of men's bad choices. I didn't think Ariadne as a character was that interesting. She basically is depicted as someone who can do no wrong, and all of her suffering is just due to every man she encounters being super shitty. This is one of those books where I feel like the author's definition of feminism is women good, men bad, and I'm not about that. Like, it was just so one-dimensional and completely lacking in nuance. There is actually a version of Ariadne's myth from ancient Greece that I think is more feminist than this book, which claims to be a feminist retelling. One of my biggest pet peeves is when somebody says they are writing a feminist book, and what they produce is just a book of women suffering for pages on end because of the patriarchy. Like, that's not the kind of story that I want to read. I mean, yes, patriarchy is real in the past and today, but women in the past still had some moments of joy and agency in their lives. I don't want to read 400 pages of just endless suffering with no glimmer of hope or spark of joy. I also think, considering the author claims to be writing a feminist book, it's very strange how Hera is so villainized, and Zeus, like, really nothing bad is said about Zeus when he literally is a philandering husband who has raped many women, and yet somehow Hera is the bad guy here? Make it make sense. I know this is an unpopular opinion because so many people love this book and they love this author, but man, I thought it was bad. It was really not good, and I will not read from this author again. And finally, I think I could argue this was the worst out of all of them. And it's a book that I really thought I was going to like, but I did not, unfortunately. And that's Cleopatra's Dagger by Carol Lawrence. This is a historical mystery set in Gilded Age New York City in the year 1880, and the main character, Elizabeth, is the only female reporter at the Herald. When Elizabeth and her friend Carlotta discover a woman's body wrapped like a mummy in Central Park, Elizabeth takes it upon herself to investigate the crime. I say she discovers the body with her friend, but really Elizabeth and Carlotta's friendship, it's not that developed or interesting. Basically, one day the two of them just meet each other because they live in the same apartment building, and after a 2-minute conversation, Carlotta decides that they're gonna be friends now. And Carlotta's entire personality is just based on her being Jewish, bohemian, and often bringing Elizabeth bagels. That's really all there is to her. There was also a romantic subplot in this book, which, again, I feel like was not developed at all, and I didn't really understand, like, why I was supposed to root for them together. I don't feel like the author made any attempt to convince me these two would be a good match. To be honest, for a hot minute there, I thought the love interest was going to end up being the murderer, because I thought, surely not, she's not going to end up with this guy. Like, he's got no personality. But, she did. I think it would have been better if she tried to pull a plot twist and reveal that he was the murderer. That would have at least been interesting. There is also a scene in this book involving sexual assault, and I understand what the author was trying to do, but I feel like if she wanted to include that as part of the book, she should have spent a lot more time discussing that sensitive issue and the psychological fallout for Elizabeth. I feel like in its present form, that topic was not given the care and treatment it really deserves. This author was trying to shoehorn a lot of social issues into the book, and I feel like none of them were really discussed in depth, so she should have picked the 1, 2, or even 3 issues she was really passionate about and talked about those in a more detailed fashion. I do think the reveal of the killer could have been interesting. That is one positive thing I will say about this book. It's not the person who I thought the killer was going to be. However, the climax is insanely melodramatic, so I couldn't really enjoy the reveal because I was like, is this really happening right now? Like, this is so over the top. I do have an entire Goodreads review talking about why this book was a letdown for me. I will link that in the description if you want to read it for a couple more thoughts. I thought I was going to love this book, a historical mystery set in Gilded Age New York with a female journalist as the main character. Sounds great, but this did not do it for me at all. There was very little I liked about it. In retrospect, I'm like, maybe this should have been a 1-star book for me because I really didn't like anything about it. I feel like there were good ideas here, but the execution was really lacking. So everyone, those were my least favorite books of 2022. Let me know, what was the worst book you read this year? I would really like to hear all about it. Just feel free to vent to me in the comments. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me. I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. My social media links are down below if you want to follow me on Tumblr, Instagram, or be my friend on Goodreads. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an awesome rest of your day. Bye, and I'll see you next time.